Wake up my face. Hi, everybody. Try to add some color into my face for this Facebook Live. I'm coming to you from New York, and we have Heather Bruce Allison here. Hey, Heather, how are you?
Hi, love.
Hey, thank you so much for being with me. So Heather is a guest in my new online series called The True Path Entrepreneur. And Heather is an amazing, beautiful goddess teaching women how to really step into their power and live a life that they love. And you know, I was just telling her, I was on texting my friend who's also part of the series, Alok, and we were talking about the California wildfires and how it feels like, you know, he's holding space and been in prayer the last few days, and he's actually losing a lot of his possessions that are being stored there. And I said, why don't we talk about why this subject is so important when it feels like the whole effing world is falling apart? Like, and I know a lot of us feel this way when we see the news, you know, we see, war and destruction, and it's like, it feels like everything's coming down. And I was like, you know what, this would actually be great to talk about. It's like, why is this work that you teach so important right now? And if anything, it's more important than anything. So Heather, tell people a little bit about, you know, what it is that you teach and how it does apply to this, you know, people who might be freaking out thinking shit's going to hell.
Yeah. So in essence, and what I say that I do changes like every single day, but I help to activate the sacred archetypes in women primarily right now. I'm starting to do a little bit of work with men here and there, but in essence, what that means is we've been living in what I call the wounded masculine paradigm. The world has, men and women, all of us have been. It's all we've been conditioned with, it's all we've been taught. And the feminine, it's so out of balance that this is why we see so much happening in the world that is all about the greed and the taking and appearances and control and like separation and not getting along, not understanding each other and not communicating, all the stuff, all the things. It's also why we have destroyed our planet so terribly, because we've been out of balance in those archetypes. The feminine is the archetype that connects with nature. It's the archetype that connects with intuition, with inner knowing, with our interconnectivity between both ourselves, like people, as well as the planet, as well as animals and the invisible realms, our intuition, our feelings, all of this stuff. So because that hasn't been present, the feminine is starting to wake up now. She's starting to kind of wake up within everybody. And for most people, what that looks like is, or feels like, is this kind of, I always call it this like itchy sweater feeling, like something doesn't feel right and I cannot figure out why it's not shifting. I'm trying all the things. Why isn't it working? And they have this really deep kind of feeling that there's supposed to be more. It's supposed to feel better than this. Like, this is not what I signed up for. Kind of. And so the more that becomes like up here where we're not willing to settle anymore, that's typically when when clients tend to find me, because it's like, what the fuck? Nothing is working. Nothing I've tried, all the courses, all the books, whatever, it doesn't work. And so why I'm kind of sharing all this in service of what you're just talking about, which is the planet, is it is like the fire is up right now. Like, to borrow the metaphor of the fires that are happening, it's not, for me, it's not just literal fire. It's literally the fire is up in all of us. It is becoming a really incredibly urgent need for us to actually do this work. So for me, this is the work. What I know, what I've been, because I have been only called up in the last 3 years. I was just like a corporate America, like work rat, like everybody else, you know.
Like all of us.
Right, no offense, but I didn't have any idea what I was supposed to be doing or what my purpose was. And literally almost overnight, it was this massive awakening and cracking open, and was kind of handed this is what you're doing from now on. Also, here's all this intuitive stuff that you never thought that you knew how to, you know, that you never thought you had. And all the information I've gotten around it is that this is exactly what has to happen if we're going to save this. Not save the planet. I actually think she's going to take care of herself just fine. Yeah. It's if we want to stay here, if we want to actually survive, and if we want to not take out all the other species along with us.
Yeah. I love what you said. Echoing. Do you hear that? Yeah. Okay, maybe it's me. I completely agree. That's why I equated, this feeling of shit hitting the fan, the world falling apart, the California wildfires, whatever it is. It's literally every time you look at anything coming from the news. And, people really are starting to wake up and question, like, what the hell? Like, this isn't what life is supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be constantly anxious. I'm not supposed to be living in fear. I'm not supposed to hate what I do for a living. I'm not supposed to be suffering. I don't want to live in the world that is going to hell. And you're right. So many people are coming to people like you, like, where do I begin? What do I do? How do I change? Even today I was on the phone with my, she's technically a therapist, but she's more like a spiritual counselor. And yeah, it's like half the talk. I was like, sometimes I feel so, just disappointed or lost and like, what can I do? But then it's like, this is the work right here, stepping into your true purpose, stepping into your true essence in yourself and really shining your light and sharing your message. Like the work that you do with these women and now men and helping, people kind of step into their true path and step into their spirit. And I mean, this is the work that will essentially, you're right, like, the planet will save itself if we want it to, but also, have humans start to care and start to realize that there is more than, just destroying the planet or, being a rat at a corporate job, especially when it's misaligned with your values. That's what it took for someone like me is when I was working.
Like myself a rat.
Yeah. Well, no, but like, there's so many people I know. It's like, I was literally doing work that was destroying the planet. And it got to a day where I was like, I just can't do this. This isn't part of my value system. So why should I work with this? And
it's the truth is that it's just going to get more and more uncomfortable. And so we literally can either we get to choose which form of discomfort we want to play in. We can either choose to stay doing what we're doing and get so fucking uncomfortable that it's the only choice that we have. And who knows if it's going to, work by that point, because we will be up against that edge, up against that wall and like, at the edge of our demise, essentially. And I mean this in like every facet of like, this is within our relationships. This is within ourselves, our bodies, our health, our taking care of the planet. This is the like cosmos, like at all levels of this. Or we get to choose to get a little uncomfortable now, meaning do the work, like step out of the space that's like the fear telling us we're not ready, or we don't have enough money to do this, or we don't have anything to offer, or whatever voice that is that's saying, oh, maybe someday. I think this was the fire that was so up for me yesterday. I literally woke up pissed. I was like, oh, and it's so funny because I like sat down and angry journaled, and I took a black pen. And I like never journal with black pens. I'm always like blues and like all these. But I like angry journaled because I'm like, the fucking time is now. Like, look at this world that we're living in right now. Look at all the shit that's happening. Look at the status and state of our relationships and how they're all falling apart. Look at what we're doing to ourselves. Look at how we're like wasting our lives away. It is like the fire was so up for me yesterday.
Yeah. My yoga teacher who actually, I mean, he's a good friend of mine. He might be listening. He has us do the sounds with our breath. And I was like, watch out, because I'm going to start screaming. Like I felt the same way this whole week. It's like, what does it take to get people to wake up and start changing and being, you're right. Actually, it's funny. That was my whole conversation this morning with my counselor, was about that uncomfortable feeling, holding the space for the darkness that we must go into, or, this is the consciousness that's destroying the planet, and now it's manifesting, and okay, we have to sit with it. And yeah, we can send prayers and hold the space and do what we're doing now, get the message out so people start to wake up and understand. But you're right, at the same time, I'm like, God, this sucks. Like, I'm pissed and I'm uncomfortable. And it is about like, who do you be in that uncomfortable situation? Who do you become in your relationships, in your work, in your message to the world? And this is why I was like, even though I am, I'm sitting here as a business coach, and the series was called True Path Entrepreneur, and it is about business, but in the end, it really is just about your life's work, whether you want to call it business or not. It's what is your purpose, right?
Yeah, it's about your soul. And the thing is, we call it work, and it is doing the work, because for me, I think the work comes when we're consistently willing to look, right? Instead of like, just kidding, I don't want to see. But really, truly, in shifting these paradigms and starting to allow ourselves to bring the feminine back, it feels so much better. It feels so much better. And so I don't want to scare anybody who's watching this right now and saying like, oh shit, that means I got to go and do this work and it's going to feel awful. And I got to go do all this like deep, like horrible, whatever work that looks like for you. But it doesn't have to be like that, because the truth of the matter is we've just been trying this like one way of doing things for so long. And there's another way. There's a completely other way. And it doesn't feel at all like the one that we're used to. Now that means it's going to feel a little funky sometimes too, because it's like, if I was learning Japanese, my mouth probably wouldn't make the sounds right, or it would feel weird in my, you know what I mean? Like it would feel strange to make the sounds and whatever, but it's in us already. The feminine is already in us. She's not something that we have to like figure out how to become. We just have to learn how to like unlock her. We just have to learn how to like let her come out. That makes sense. And my one of my mentors is at a conference this week, and she said it's like all these, bajillionaires, and they're all getting together to talk about like what do we do, because all the stuff that we've been doing in the past isn't working anymore. It is like, because that paradigm is crumbling, the foundation of everything that we've been doing is all just falling apart. And so we can't just keep like trying to build on top of that foundation, expect anything to happen anymore.
Exactly.
Your paradigm is shifting.
Yeah.
So I actually loved hearing that. I was like, yes, even they're feeling it. Okay, good.
Oh, everybody. I mean, you're right. It's incredible. One of my closest friends is a big time entrepreneur, and thank God he's in the healthcare industry and is actually literally changing it. It's like he's creating a new system. But yeah, it's talking to him, and he's young. He's still kind of hip and happening. He's not old minded. And it's the same discussion. It's like, he's like, you know what? People are just done. Like the old way of doing, whatever it is, doing business, natural resources, pillaging the earth, treating each other, the politicians, the whole Me Too movement. Thank God this is finally coming to surface after all this time of no one speaking up about it. It's like, it's literally every morning I turn on, if I listen to the news, I'm like, oh, there's another one. And you're right. And that's why I'm so happy to be talking to you and showcase what you teach. Because although, it's like I do know about this, but it's not where my number one gift lies. It's just a passion of mine. I talk about this in our full interview that I'm involved in a goddess group here in New York, and I help put on a women's retreat. And it's, I actually poo-pooed it at the beginning. My friend who organized it, I was like, why would I want to hang out with a bunch of women? But honestly, it's been so life-changing. And we all see now, this is the power of groups coming together, of women coming together, banding together for a common good, and actually, having our voices be heard and getting out there. And not in an aggro, angry way, but really in a like, you know what, it's time to take some action, because you're right. Like the foundations are crumbling and it's not working, and we're done. This is it.
Yeah. I actually am really happy that, and I hope it's okay to go into this a little bit, but I don't want to go there too far, but I'm glad that you brought up the Me Too stuff. What is it that wants to be shared? That's been a really interesting one for me to watch. And what I'm loving seeing is one of my clients had a former acquaintance of hers reach out from her past and say, in essence, I'm really sorry if I was ever inappropriate with you. I'm really sorry if right? And I was like, I know, and I'm getting chills. I'm like, this is where it's going. This is what's happening, is that men or anyone who's perpetrator, like this goes for, white people saying this to people of color, like whatever that looks like. I'm really sorry if I've ever done anything to you. And I'm like, this is how it's starting to happen, is the healing, is the men are starting to reach out and say like, and look at the past and look at themselves. The hard part about this for me was because of the work that I do and the information I get, it's really, really hard for me to add any additional shame and blame into the collective. And so there was a part of me that had in pain watching the men getting torn down, and not because it's okay what happened, and not because they should have a free pass. Absolutely not. But because they are just as much a victim of this wounded paradigm as we are. And none of us have gotten out unscathed. None of us have gotten a free pass in like, I'm okay here. Of course, there are some who have had more privilege than others. And that's where the responsibility comes in, right? But it's so powerful for me to see people starting to show up and saying, just take radical responsibility, not from a place of blame and shame, but from a place of just simply like connection. And I see you. And I want to make sure, if I have done anything in the past, that I want to make sure I do better. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm like, do I really want to talk about this? And I was like, no, it's coming.
It's so incredible to, at least, you know, now there's conversations being facilitated that we weren't able to have before. You know, it was kind of under the radar, like maybe some women would talk about it, but not even, you know, even then it's like women didn't even feel safe. And now there's like, hey, you know what, if other people are talking about it, you're right. I was just telling someone the other day, I'm like, well, I used to get harassed by my old boss, but he was gay, so I thought it was okay. And, you know, we were kind of buddies, so I was like, whatever, no big deal. But I was like, you know, that was really inappropriate. Like, wow, if, you know, God knows where he is now. It was a long time ago. But yeah, that is amazing to see this happening, and also to have just the awareness now, you know, and have people wake up and just be a little bit more aware of, okay, well, how did that come off, or what is it that I just did, and was that appropriate, and how do I start treating, you know, this other, another human just as my equal? I mean, that's all it comes down to. It's like, we're all the same. We're all one and the same. It's just masculine versus feminine. And even that, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. So, you know, I'm very glad you shared this. And again, this is why the work you're doing is so important. It's everybody needs to be healed, the whole planet. And thankfully we're on the way.
I know. This is the fun part for me, is I get to say, I just hosted a retreat in the desert over the last week for 6 women. My retreats are always really intimate, but holy shit, it was so powerful to see the quantum leaping just from the time, like the woman they were when they showed up to the woman they were when they left, and what had happened, and what like massive unfolding and like cracking open of intuition when they thought they weren't even intuitive, and just all of this. It was so powerful. It was so powerful. And so this for me is why we see so much kind of happening, maybe why we're being put in the pressure cooker right now with the Trumps of the world, the wildfires, all the stuff, is so that we choose differently, and we choose more powerfully. We choose to finally take the steps in service of our own quantum leaping that is going to be what heals this planet finally, and our relationships between one another. Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing this. Now, tell everybody a little bit more about where they can find you and what you have coming up next with your business. Yeah, I'm at heather-allison.com. The biggest thing, my baby that I'm birthing right now is Golden Goddess, which is, in essence, it's kind of, I have a program called Goddess Army, which is an online course only. And there are some elements there where you can get some support from me personally, but Golden Goddess is the kind of what I call my quantum leap mastermind that I actually lead personally for only up to 15 women a year. So that is starting in early spring next year. So gates are open for that, and all of my early birds are coming in and getting like early support. We're doing actually a free call every month until we start, and just starting to get to play in some of the materials. So that's my baby right now, because it used to be that I would teach the same material that was in Goddess Army, and it has evolved so much every single time that I've taught it that it had to really become its own thing. So that's why it's kind of this new birthing for me. It's going to very much be a bit more of the really like a radical transformation and radical diving into these archetypes in their powered form, in their sacred form, and tapping into our access to the universe as well, which is super
incredible. Fun. Yeah, and there's nothing like the power of a group too. I mean, especially when it's a tight group like that. That's really good you're doing this. I love it.
So fun. It's
yeah.
So fun.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and everybody catch Heather's full interview. It's going live. I forgot which day, but
Wednesday next week.
That's it. It's going live next week. You can just log in at thetruepathentrepreneur.com, and then you'll also get interviews with 33 other amazing people. I actually can't believe how awesome every single person in this series is. Like, everybody's amazing. I can talk to everybody for hours. I want to be everybody's best friend.
I know. Are we this time next week? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. It's been such a good group. I was like, how do I bring everybody together and just like have a party? But everybody's in a different place always and traveling.
That would be so fun.
Yeah. But that's why we do this. So, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And Heather, have an amazing weekend. And thanks for being with me.
Thanks, love.
Bye.